America, a land of opportunity, power, and progress. But have you ever wondered how this vast and powerful nation came to be? Today, we're going to explore the full history of America, starting from its ancient roots, right up to the modern-day superpower it has become. We'll dive into its discovery, the people who shaped it, its rise to dominance, and even the dramatic shifts in its population over time. Let's take this historical journey together. Chapter 1: Pre-Columbian America, Indigenous Peoples and Early Civilizations. Before we get to Columbus, it's important to recognize that the land we now know as America has been inhabited for thousands of years by indigenous peoples. These civilizations lived and thrived long before European explorers set foot on the continent. Ancient civilizations, indigenous groups such as the Maya, Aztec, and Inca in the south built advanced societies with stunning architecture, written languages, and sophisticated economies. In the northern part of the continent, cultures like the Iroquois and Mississippian were building mounds, developing trade networks, and establishing powerful alliances. Population at the time. Estimates suggest that the indigenous population of the Americas was between 50 million to 100 million before European arrival. These diverse societies were spread across what would become Canada, the United States, and Latin America. Chapter 2: The Age of Exploration, Columbus and Early European Contact. The story of modern America begins when European explorers started reaching the shores of the New World. Christopher Columbus, 1492. On October 12, 1492, Christopher Columbus, an Italian navigator sponsored by Spain, arrived in the Caribbean, convinced that he had found a new route to Asia. Instead, he encountered the islands of the Caribbean, including modern-day San Salvador, Bahamas. This marked the beginning of European exploration and colonization in the Americas. Other European explorers. While Columbus is often credited with discovering America, he was not the first European to set foot on the continent. The Viking explorer Leif Erikson had landed in North America, specifically in Newfoundland, around the year 1000 AD. However, Columbus's voyages ignited sustained European exploration of the Americas, leading to the establishment of colonies. Chapter 3: Colonization, the birth of the 13 colonies. After Columbus's voyages, Spain, France, England, and other European powers began claiming territories across the Americas. Colonization began in earnest in the 16th century. Spanish colonies. Spain was the first major European power to establish colonies in the Americas. They founded St. Augustine, Florida, in 1565, the oldest continuous European settlement in the US. English colonies. The English established their first successful colony at Jamestown, Virginia, in 1607. Over the next century, English settlers established the 13 colonies along the eastern coast, creating the framework for what would become the United States. Pilgrims and Puritans. In 1620, the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock, Massachusetts, seeking religious freedom. Their settlement marked the beginning of a wider movement for religious and economic freedom that would spread across the colonies. Chapter 4: The American Revolution, Independence from Britain. By the mid-1700s, tensions between the 13 colonies and Britain were escalating. Due to issues like taxation without representation and British control over colonial trade. The spark of rebellion, events like the Boston Massacre, 1770, the Boston Tea Party, 1773, and the imposition of various taxes led to widespread protests. Declaration of Independence, 1776. On July 4, 1776, the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence, written primarily by Thomas Jefferson, formally breaking ties with Britain. The document stated that all men were created equal and entitled to certain inalienable rights, such as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Revolutionary War 1775-1783 the American colonies fought a brutal war for their independence, supported by foreign powers like France. The war culminated in the victory of the colonies, and the Treaty of Paris 1783, who recognized the independence of the United States. Chapter 5. The formation of the U.S., the Constitution, and the early Republic. After gaining independence, the United States needed a system of government. The Articles of Confederation were the first attempt at governing, but they proved ineffective. U.S. Constitution 1787. In 1787, a new constitution was drafted in Philadelphia to establish a stronger federal government. The Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, was added in 1791 to ensure the protection of individual freedoms. George Washington. In 1789, George Washington became the first president of the United States, setting numerous precedents for the office, including the formation of the cabinet and the two-term limit. Chapter 6. Westward expansion and manifest destiny. During the 19th century, the United States expanded rapidly across the North American continent. Louisiana Purchase 1803. President Thomas Jefferson doubled the size of the U.S. by purchasing the Louisiana Territory from France for $15 million. This gave the U.S. control over the Mississippi River and a vast area of land west of the Mississippi. The Trail of Tears. As settlers moved west, indigenous peoples were forcibly removed from their lands in the Trail of Tears, culminating in the relocation of thousands of Native Americans to reservations in the 1830s. Manifest destiny. The belief in manifest destiny, the idea that Americans were destined to expand across the continent, led to the acquisition of vast territories. This included Texas, California, and the southwestern lands acquired after the Mexican-American War, 1846 to 1848. Chapter 7. The Civil War and Reconstruction. The issue of slavery divided the United States, ultimately leading to the American Civil War. The Civil War 1861 to 1865. The conflict was fought between the Union, the North, and the Confederacy, the South, largely over the issues of slavery and states' rights. The Union, led by President Abraham Lincoln, eventually won, and the Confederate States were brought back into the Union. The Emancipation Proclamation 1863. In 1863, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which freed enslaved people in the Confederate States. The war ended in 1865, and slavery was formally abolished with the 13th Amendment. Chapter 8. Industrialization, immigration, and the Gilded Age. The late 19th century saw America transform into an industrial giant. Industrial Revolution. The US became a leader in manufacturing, railroads, and agriculture. Cities grew rapidly, attracting millions of immigrants from Europe, especially from Ireland and Italy, seeking jobs and better lives. The Gilded Age. This period, marked by rapid industrialization and the rise of powerful business magnates like John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie, also saw stark contrasts in wealth, leading to growing social tensions. Chapter 9. The 20th century, World Wars, Great Depression, and Civil Rights. World War I 1914 to 1918. The US entered World War I in 1917 on the side of the Allies, contributing to the defeat of Germany. Great Depression 1929. The stock market crash of 1929 led to a severe economic downturn, with millions unemployed. President Franklin D. Roosevelt introduced his New Deal, which included social welfare programs to help the economy recover. World War to 1939 to 1945. The US emerged as a global superpower after World War II, playing a pivotal role in defeating the Axis powers. The war also marked the start of the US as a key player in international politics and the formation of the United Nations. Civil rights movement. In the 1950s and 1960s, the civil rights movement, led by figures like Martin Luther King Jr., fought for racial equality and justice, culminating in the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Chapter 10: Modern America, Global Superpower and Population Growth. Population growth. When Columbus arrived in 1492, the population of the Americas was estimated at around 50 million. Today, the population of the United States is over 332 million, 2024, making it the third most populous country in the world. Global influence. Today, the US is a global superpower, influencing politics, economics, culture, and technology worldwide. It has been at the forefront of technological innovation, space exploration, and has played a key role for addressing global challenges like climate change and economic crisis. Conclusion: from its indigenous roots to becoming the global leader it is today, America's history is one of constant evolution. It's a history marked by struggle, innovation, and the constant striving for a better future. America's journey is far from over. At Nations Unfolded, subscribe to our channel